Hello to My Damascus Road. I'm Michael O'Neill. I'm starting this ministry for the purpose of sharing my experience and what I've learned from the Bible, the scriptures, from Genesis to Revelation. I'd like to share with you a book that I've written, and it's, of course, titled My Damascus Road. I do not sell this book. I give this book away. At this time, I'm going to start just reading this book. I am going to hold off answering very many comments. For the purpose, as I read the book, we will go through this, and a lot of the questions that will be asked at the beginning of the book will be answered as we read. When I'm done reading the book, I'm not going to close up the YouTube channel. I'm going to continue it as My Damascus Road, because my learning did not stop at the end of the book. My learning continued, and it still continues, and I'm going to explain more, and after I read the book, I'm going to expound and do more of a teaching setting rather than a reading. So, please bear in mind, I will be reading the book at first, and then later on, it'll be more of teaching. All right. I'm going to begin by reading the introduction. So bear in mind, this may be a little lethargic at first because I'll be reading, but I'm going to do my best to make this a little more entertaining than just reading. Chances are I will read, there are 9 chapters, 10 if you count the introduction, and I will read all 10. After that, I'm going to step away and use the Bible, the scriptures, for all teaching going forward. Not to say there's no scriptures in this. I have to include scriptures, and I have extensively. So let's get started. Introduction. My wife, Mima, and I had been married for over 14 years and had never celebrated Halloween. My sister, Bonnie, had always celebrated Halloween. In 2012, just after Halloween, Bonnie and I had a conversation on the telephone. She asked me what costume Maya, my 3-year-old daughter at the time, she's 13 now, she asked what she had worn for Halloween. I responded quite emphatically, "Bonnie, you know I don't celebrate Halloween because of what it represents and because of its history." Bonnie quickly responded with her deep southern accent, "Then you might as well not celebrate Christmas or Easter either because they're both pagan too." Her statement hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd always been proud of being a follower of Jesus, and I did my best to ensure that I was obedient to the faith as much as possible. My sister, in a roundabout way, was attempting to sway me to enjoy Halloween. However, to the contrary, she caused a stir in my spirit. The next couple of months, Mima and I spent many hours investigating the backgrounds of the beloved holidays of Christmas and Easter in detail. A few years earlier, Mima and I had read through the book of Leviticus. When we reached chapter 23, in which the feasts of God are listed, we discussed them. We thought it would be fun to celebrate those holidays like the Jews and Israel. We also wondered what had happened to them in the Christian church over the years. The thoughts of observing the feasts of the Bible were forgotten as quickly as they came. We never researched the feasts and festivals any farther. We just forgot about them. Thanks to my sister, we had to find the truth. We had to discover why the feasts and festivals in the Bible had been pushed aside in the Christian church and the pagan holidays of Easter and Christmas accepted. We had to know the truth. As a result of my research, the question of obedience to the laws of the Old Testament arose. My best friend and roommate in college had, in my terms, turned Jew. For over 11 years, my friend had told me that we must obey the Old Testament laws of God. I thought he was misguided and would eventually come back to the Christian truth. My lovingly jokes of calling him Jew boy did not waver nor bother him in the slightest. We never argued about Scripture, and for the most part, we agreed when discussing the Bible. My friend had disputed with other Christians over Scripture, and we would discuss those issues. Most of the time, I agreed with his point of view. I never attacked him on anything in which we disagreed. When I disagreed, I kept it to myself. If I disagreed, I would research scriptures that agreed with my point of view and scratch my head at his misconception of the scriptures. My sister's comment had caused quite a stir in my soul. I researched and I researched. I began to realize that even in our strong Christian beliefs, we were allowing our lives and beliefs to be governed based on and deep-rooted in the Catholic religion. I saw that this was problematic. Two of the primary issues with allowing our lives and beliefs to be governed based on and deep-rooted in the Catholic religion were, number one, the anti-Semitism the Roman Catholic Church has shown throughout history, and number two, the strong evidence I found that the translators of the English Bible had tried to remove all Jewishness from the New Testament. Beginning in the 300 AD period with Roman Emperor Constantine, to the Crusades, to the Spanish Inquisition, and through Martin Luther's writings of "Oh, the Jews and Their Lies," Catholicism had hated, killed, and persecuted the Jewish people throughout the ages. I also saw that Catholicism had been willing to accept pagan practices and twist those pagan practices into Christianity as outreach to the pagans. If Jesus and the apostles were all Jewish men, why would the Catholic Church be against the Jewishness of the Scriptures and accepting of pagan practices? I questioned what we had become, or what they had become. Our Christian religion today appeared to be a twisted perversion of the truth. I was quite a bit disheartened and confused, yet determined. I had a fire lit in my heart. I had to find the truth. Was Sean, my best friend, correct? I began researching carefully the letters to the Romans, Galatians, and Ephesians with the help of my dusty collection of the Complete Biblical Library. I'll show you those one day. In which the entire Bible is written in its original Hebrew and Greek languages and translated with the definitions and explanations of each word and phrase into English. The Complete Biblical Library is an excellent and invaluable resource. My research of Romans, Galatians, and Ephesians led me to my ultimate question. Is the Old Testament law, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, for the Gentile church of today? With that question, I began a study from Matthew to Revelation, searching diligently for the answer. I had to know and understand what Jesus said and did, and what was his attitude toward the Old Testament law and commandments, the Torah. The scribes and Pharisees were the lawgivers, yet Jesus called them hypocrites on many occasions. Why? My next course of action was to find out what those closest to Jesus said and did, and what were their attitudes toward the Old Testament law in the book of Acts. If Jesus had done away with the law, what and how were they preaching in the book of Acts? Next, I began researching Paul in the book of Acts. Then I filtered all of his writings through the knowledge of what was found in the book of Acts and through the knowledge gained of Jesus from the books of Mark, Matthew, John, Luke. I believe we must rightly interpret Paul's writings after we sort through Paul's life in the book of Acts. I do not believe that we should make any doctrine from his writings before we know who he was as a Christian, a Jew, and a Pharisee. Last but not least, I did the same with the rest of the epistles. Thus I began my Damascus Road experience. If we recall, Paul, he was persecuting the believers, and on his way to Damascus to do so when he saw a great light that blinded him. He went to Ananias, who prayed for him, and the scales fell from his eyes, and he could see again. His life was changed. In a sense, I was persecuting my best friend, Sean, Jew boy. Now, I believe that I have seen a great light, and the scales have fallen from my eyes. Please allow me a few moments of your time to share my Damascus Road. My next video will be of me reading from chapter 1. Jesus' response to this question in the book of Matthew. So please come back, share, like, be ready to tar and feather me. Just come back, visit with me, watch, let me know of your thoughts. And if you have questions, please bear with me. I'm not going to get into a debate through comments. I'm going to let this book go through, and then I'm just going to teach from the book and then teach afterwards from my knowledge as a minister and from my heart. I appreciate you watching. Y'all have a wonderful day. Be blessed. Be good. See you next time.